Hello and welcome to another Indie Sunday. Today we're going to be playing Knell of Saint Godhrkar? This won't be the last word that I don't know how to pronounce in this game. You may now be asking yourself, Calamity, you said recently you've got a new face cam, why are you never using it? Well, in this case, there's just no right place to put it, so I thought I might as well just leave it out entirely. And before we start, I wanted to quickly mention there's actually some interesting options. There we go. For some reason, I think it was still in the OBS window on the other screen, so it didn't react immediately. You can turn specific characters' voices off, which I thought quite interesting. I'm not sure if I'll ever pronounce that name. Names are very creative, but let's see. Yeah, that's fine. Oh, back's over there, of course. Okay, let's just start a new game. It is free to play, so I'm probably gonna play, I don't know, about half an hour, maybe 45 minutes of it. And if you like it, you can play it yourself without any costs, which is quite nice. Although the English translation only reaches up to chapter 5 or 6, apparently. I don't know how far that is. That might be 30 minutes in, that might be 17 hours in, I have no idea. Let's get started. In-game difficulty. I don't really know what we're going to be having a difficulty for. From any of the preview pictures on Steam, I didn't see anything that would require difficulty. Did it just auto-choose for me? Apparently. Okay. Trying to sing, he moved his lips. Not for his fear of death, the instinct to cry for help, nor for our eternal need of breath, but only the grunt of foam floating on his blood resounded in this room. And other sounds. Out of control, his leg trembled. The splashing sound of boots, the anxious cry. Darkness fondled his eyes. He could only paint the police officer's facial expression from the sound of their footsteps. Though he could feel some sort of a cloth being compressed on his wound, he'd rather be offered a larger and thicker blanket so that his damp and freezing body could be covered. This was the third tourniquet. The first and second one were soaked by his blood, then got dried and stuck directly on his neck. He was unable to remember the details of the murder. Due to the loss of blood, he lost himself to exhaustion and vertigo. He eventually felt his body mass become heavier than it was supposed to be. It is as if he has sunk deeper into the water. The gravity keeps on dragging him down into the abyss. Not long after, a man approached him, attempting to see if he was conscious. The man started to pat the side of his face repeatedly, and it took him some time to figure out what the man was saying. Every single sound has become unclear, except the murmur of death calling for him. Hang on, stay calm. The man's southern accent and shoddy antinomian blew in his ears like a gust of wind. Antinomian, I think, is probably the language that they're speaking here. He relied on his hearing, which he has lived on, more than his lethargic sights. He could understand music, even before he can talk. About his voice, Balzac paper once lauded him, the best singer in Popalioge. He was only 16 at that time. Every inhabitant took a leaflet of his father's orchestra before they arrived in Promland. He took people's praise for granted since the day he began to sing. He believed that the world would be captivated by him forever. Born with a clear voice and talented mind, he believed that he deserved all the cheeky love of the world. Cheeky seems like a weird word to use there. Liffel Theatre should be the final of their tour. No one foresaw it would be the end of their future. They were in a rehearsal when death paid a visit. He remembered the appearance of a blurry shadow with a sharp voice that could even split the particles in the air. The singers who stood in the back row fell onto the ground. People screamed and rushed to the exit. He saw how blood gushing out from the singer's neck, leaving splatters and tainting from their suits. In the midst of panic, their attempts to stop the bleeding were rather clumsy and reckless. Some of the singers' limbs went into convulsions and they died in seconds. Gastric fluid flowed into his throat. He stepped backwards, knees weakened, and he eventually collapsed on the stage. People died right before his eyes, with such agonizing screams he never heard from human beings. How could it be so erratic, so nasty? Run, run, run! He crawled like a cat, sneaking his way out, escaping from the room of death. He tried to stand, but to no avail, due to his father's... What? Then a hand grabbed his head. He felt a cold sensation on his neck. Blood maneuvered through his muscles and vessel. The murderer then released him. He fell on the floor for the second time. The blood singed his throat, trickling down onto the wooden floor, trailing through each and every opening, decorating the floor with a bizarre embroidery. He was grasping for more air, but only more blood flowed out. The struggle he made so far has drained what's left of his power. A person then turned him over and froze for a moment. It's the murderer. Shadows scrambled into his eyes. That murderer crouched towards him. He felt heavy. For a second his head felt tight. Then the next second his mind loosened gently. Later he saw the police officers wandering. Their heavy footsteps can be heard, scrambling around the premise. A view stroke him. His voice, the tourniquet sticking on his neck. Performance in the theatre. The first time he sang, the first time he stood on the stage. These memories warmed his way to decease. Trying to sing, he moved his lips. Tonality and rhythms tamed him. He believed that through his devotion in music, Votru will never abandon him. But, no matter how hard he tried, only noise, that of a broken wooden door, resonated in the air. Rage seeped in his flowing blood. The murderer's intrusion into his bright future is the most unforgivable. His voice, moreover, the only thing he cherished. I will slice your neck like this, he vowed. No, not enough. The murderer must lose every single thing that belongs to him. His feet, his eyes, his tone, his organs. I will decorate the whole stage with his body. Alright, calm down. And that wouldn't be the end. It would not culminate in this. He stretched a hand out into the air, with foam and blood trickling all over the floor. He craved to sing the aria which he favorited. But how could a violin perform without its string? In that darkness, he saw... that, raising a gesture of silence. He should succumb to darkness. Hatred, grievance, and fear flowed down his backbone, decreasing. Nothing will accompany him but silence in his death, on which his pathetic screams will grate and cease to exist. Alright, that is an intro. All songs must be hunted, for that is the omen of doomsday. Might have to skip this, or cut it out later on because of copyright reasons. I don't know though, so for now I'll leave it in. We'll see. Alright. It's clear that a lot of effort went into this game. Oh. Something started to play there. Sometime in December 1544. The 5th of December. A Thursday. In the chapel. Upon the altar, one could spot a burning candle. The melted wax trailed down the candle to the silver-plated candlestick. Yep, that's the text box, I figured. Click the red keyword in the text to display relevant information. It's the only lit candle in the entire West Eyrie chapel, and there's no sign of any visitors. West Eyrie is the world's most populous religion. Okay. Its birthplace, Thalisek of Promland, is revered as the holy city. Its adherents believe in the teachings of Antinomia, and its envoy, and they are notorious for the militia's reign in history. The faith is unpopular outside of the Thalisek region. Oh, didn't mean to click on that. Back. Left click or press C on characters' names to access their profiles. Right click or press N to switch to a relationship network of all characters. Okay. Hycinol. Priest of the West Eyrie. He is now managing the chapel of St. Godhrkar's seminary. He brings gospel to the local believers. He's very popular in the college for his baby face. Disappointed by the inaction of the order during the Civil War in Promland, he has stopped reporting to them 3 years ago. He's busy with tending the small chapel and directing the choir of the seminary right now. Kind and righteous as he is, he can be naive sometimes, which probably resulted from his only experience with students and believers. And I was meant to right click on it for the other network. Okay. Well, so far I know nothing else, so there is no network. It was the last night. The tomb's gate opened to the faithful while the dead groaned, bringing filth, blood, and pestilence upon the world. After heaving a deep sigh, Hycinol extinguishes the lingering flame and stores the melted candle. And so Theophilsa received the decree. His revelation was given by Votru. Votru, or the Omnipotent One, well known for its eyes, is one person of Antinomia. The binite god manifested as Votru, and the other one, each itself entirely being god. Votru is always observing the world, but cannot directly interfere with it, and thus they created Itches. This is why people often turn to Itches over Votru when praying for blessings or mourning their woes. Oops. Okay. Thus the Lord sent forth the apostles to heal the sins of men. Your present karma points, okay? To access the relevant menus or shortcut functions, you can set your navigation preference menu. Okay. The confessor gazes down the rows of empty pews. Tomorrow they will be filled with confessing residents, probably also confused residents. Confessors are ministers who lead the services in the chapels, assisted by altar servers and study. Normally each chapel is assigned one confessor and 4 altar servers. In St. Godhrkar, as a seminary, altar servers are usually selected from senior prefects of the college.
Theophilsa vi Veldren von Nunf. Himar me, Veldren. Virzi iuist.
Theophilsa wanted to test him, so he called out, Veldren, you must burn offerings.
Sviento.
Father Mulnathan, Priscilla. A young girl from a modest but well-educated family who is popular among the sisters and priests from St. Godhrkar Academy. She has a beautiful singing voice, which makes her the very possible next choir-leading singer. Recently, she has been sulking about not being able to perform at the baptism festival. It seems that she is very interested in topics like love and marriage. Okay. Any network here? No, she doesn't even appear here. Not a relevant character. His musings are interrupted by a young girl's voice. Hycinol opens his eyes, catching a glimpse of purple dress emerging from behind the pews.
Kier Gooch.
Are you still in prayer? Oh, I'm very sorry. I thought you might be done. Hycinol smiles, standing up and beckoning her towards the altar.
Moria line.
It's quite alright, Priscilla. My prayer is finished. May I ask what you're doing here, my child? I thought you would be enjoying the holidays by now.
See.
Ah, yes, preparing for the baptism festival must be exhausting. Is there anything I can do for you, Father? Baptism festival is a traditional religious festival with centuries of history in northern Promland. Some old tales suggest that Promland is where Theophilsa, the first, I'm just gonna call it Itchasimpo now, was born and baptized. Grand ceremonies are thus held each year on December the 12th in honor of his blessing, so in 1 week, okay. Customarily, the period starting from the last confess day before the festival is reserved for preparation.
Bloody.
My thanks, child. I'm grateful for your help. You may sweep over there while I prepare the altar.
9.
Yes, sir. Priscilla does as she is told, a bright smile illuminating her face. It looks ominous. Hyseno watches her trot away to fetch a broom and is irresistibly moved by her cheerful demeanor and openness. He takes a brass spatula to clean the wax from the candlestick and pops a new candle in. The clanging of the metal blended with the swish of Priscilla's cleaning. Silence fled the chapel the moment Priscilla arrived. While cleaning the floor, she hums a glorious hymn. As the new rising star of the choir, Priscilla was highly anticipated by the Saint Godhrkar. I'm assuming that's humming. As she finishes the song, Priscilla sweeps up the dust and empties it into the dustbin. Father Mulnathan, I have something to confess.
Clo?
And that would be?
Your star.
I actually came here to ask permission for us to sing during the festival. Sister Fiona and everyone else in the choir agreed that it's such a waste that we're not singing. Sister Fiona is the current lead singer of St. Godhrkar Choir, a pious and kind girl. Okay, yeah, if I just click on here, it's just gonna show me more. 1, 2, 5, and 9. Okay. Interesting. Okay, and it shows me more text here as well. Like, I think the first one is what I usually get, and if I want more information, down here. No, I definitely read all of that, so maybe it's just, I need to read it again in here for it to check. Priscilla rushes over to Hyseno, broom in hand. She stares up at him with her biggest puppy dog eyes, only for Hyseno to bow his head and sigh. Priscilla, we've been over this. Our choir will not be performing, and that's final.
Siento.
But, Father, it'll be the first baptism day since the war ended. It doesn't make any sense for our chapel not to join in the celebrations. Yeah, that is the same text, okay. So just in case you hadn't clicked on it the first time, you can click on it again. Priscilla and the others had a point. In fact, everyone who heard that Hyseno didn't respond to the invitation thought he was being unreasonable. The only one who truly believed his decision was no mistake was Hyseno himself.
Priscilla.
My dear, don't fight this. I don't like arguing with you.
Jotek Serit.
Besides, you would have to compete with performers from all over the country. Even if our choir were selected, you would all have to perform for each of the 3-day celebrations. As you mentioned,
Warrior Line.
Since it's the first baptism day in 4 years, not even a single mistake would be tolerated. Are you sure that you're prepared, young one?
Z.
Of course we are. Fiona already asked us to practice our performance, and we've already learned all the songs off by heart.
A star.
And I heard the final show list didn't come out yet, right? Please let us join, pretty please. Priscilla frowned, squinting at her shoes and twisting her fingers sullenly. All it took was one last pleading look to, at last, shake his resolve.
A line.
Alright, for the sake of Fiona, the church will screen the performance in 3 days. If you're chosen, then we'll see. Really?
Serit.
But if you're not chosen, you'll have to sit and watch the performance as part of the audience. Do you understand?
That's mine.
Yes, Father. We'll definitely win if you let us participate. Hyseno's words bring the light of hope back to the little girl's eyes as she holds out her pinky and index finger, looking up at him. The confessor grins and interlocks pinkies with her, making a childhood-style promise. Deal. Now back to work with you. No take-backs, just like Sandra's bow says. Utterly confused, same as me, Hyseno almost drops the Saint Steel he'd been wiping down. Saint Steel is inscribed with the most sacred commandments of West Eyrie. The texts are, according to one tale, passed down from the oldest Itchisimple. Every chapel in Promland preserves a replica of the stele made out of the same stone as the original. Okay.
Masp?
Wait a minute, whose bow?
Your star.
Sister Sandra's, a handsome man that always comes to visit her. I'm really looking forward to their wedding. Oh, can we perform there as well, please? He comes here, to the seminary? St. Godhrkar is a divinity school constructed from a yet-to-be-completed cathedral located in the suburban area of Falazak. It has been around for approximately 500 years. The school has its own libraries and museums, and its chapel is open to the public. For many, its ever-silent bell tower is the most seductive secret. Getting married? Votru, bless her, how was that even possible? His little sister was still studying at the women's college. How could she date in such a sacred place? No, the point was that he didn't even know she had a boyfriend. The revelation shatters Hyseno's composure like a bullet through a sheet of glass. He closes his eyes, sadly realizing, in a way he never had before, that Sandra had grown into a woman with her own ideas and secrets. Where are they now, Priscilla? I just saw them in the library. Nodding, the confessor sets down his steel and rushes out. Alright. This actually looks similar to the school I went to. Well, one part of it. It was incorporated into a what is it even called in English? An abbey, but it wasn't like there was no overlap necessarily. It wasn't a religious school. It just was located in an abbey, so I could, see structures similar to this. Hyseno goes straight down the hallway towards the chapel's library. The brass on the door was so immaculately polished that a distorted reflection on his face looked back at him. The confessor of St. Godhrkar squeezes 2 pieces of paper in his hand, the tickets for baptism day. Yeah, okay, you got it. He has the perfect excuse to step inside, but his feet seem to stick to the floor, keeping him from moving.
Huh?
Sandra's quiet chuckle and the softened voice of a young stranger trickled through the crack in the door. I can't wait. You can't tell him.
Yeah, Linus.
Forget about the festival. We can meet. As their voices become softer still, Hyseno presses himself closer against the door. He could have sworn he heard suspicious rustling, and for the sake of Votru, if the boy even dared to... Who's there? The door is suddenly pulled open from the inside, causing Hyseno to lose his footing. His legs snap together, causing the solemn confessor to stumble once, then twice, before bumping his head against the door. The 1 karma point you receive from Hyseno's injuries is now displayed on the function key. Changing the tendency of stories consumes karma points. The level of injuries of the present character will be displayed on his or her avatar. He fell through a door, come on. You will acquire 1 karma point when a protagonist is injured. For every bad end, you will receive 4 karma points. Okay, interesting.
Dosta!
Brother, why are you here? Sandra peers over the boy's shoulder, the 2 of them as close as a pair of sparrows in a snowdrift.
So,
I thought it was...
Maya Stela.
We thought you were some suspicious man. The young man steps forward and gives a friendly smile. But thankfully not. You must be the Reverend Father Mulnathan. I'm so sorry, I didn't know you would be... stopping by? Father Godhrkar. Each chapel has its own confessor named after it. Hyseno was so young when he was appointed the confessor of St. Godhrkar that he barely considered himself the father. In his mind, this title still belonged to the bishop. Hyseno doesn't like the young man at all. He doesn't appreciate the poorly disguised sarcasm, nor the aura the man gives off. An aura which certainly doesn't belong in a seminary.
More align.
Father Hyseno is fine, thank you. I've come to deliver your ticket for the baptism festival, Sandra. I hope you and... Hyseno leaves his invitation dangling in the air, hoping Sandra's uninvited guest would state his name. However, the boy appears nervous, pulling the tip of his hat over his eyes. An awkward silence filled the room. Sandra's eyes shift between her brother and her boyfriend before she finally nudges the boy.
So...
Sorry, I'll be leaving now. I just came to get some old newspapers, that's all. I'll, see you later, Sandra. It was nice to meet you, Father Hyseno.
It's a lie.
Good day. After the footsteps fade away, Hyseno turns to his sister. Sandra stands near a shelf, head bowed, and clutches a newspaper in her hand.
Dear Chloe.
Who was that hooligan you were flirting with just now?
Dosta!
Not a hooligan. He has a name, you know. Well, he didn't say his name. It's Lesariel.
Siyang mo Fierstar.
It doesn't matter what his name was. That boy is not the type of man you can rely on. I forbid you from seeing him again, especially in this chapel. Aseno crosses the room to the large oak table by the window before sorting through the books and old newspapers left behind, wondering why the boy had needed them. I'm already 16, Aseno. I'll be an adult next year, so I can see whomever I want to, and you can't stop me. Aseno stops to flick through some pages, then turns back to Sandra. Seeming to run out of courage, she looks down to the ground, her eyes rimmed with pink as she fought off tears.
Align.
Fine. I'll overlook this for now, but know when Father Turner returns. What?
Sunny?
Didn't you know Father Turner? Aseno looks at her bewildered. The last time he saw Turner was 2 weeks prior, right before the energetic priest had once again been sent to Skier to conduct the local services.
Chloe?
What about Father Turner? Sandra shakes her head.
Sure.
Father Turner can't. I'm afraid he can't come back. They said he killed someone. Okay, that's the opposite of what I expected to have happened, but okay. His first thought is that his sister is just mad at him about her boyfriend, but then he notices Sandra's pale face. She's scared.
Masp.
Don't tell me you believe that gossip. He's not a murderer, Sandra.
Mr. Fear.
You can't know that for certain, brother. I even read about the case in the news. It was so brutal. Aseno shakes his head in disbelief. He knows Turner is devout, although occasionally unreliable, and had always been an honest and virtuous priest. Aseno couldn't even consider, let alone believe, that he of all people would...
Still clear.
Did you hear anything from the church? Aseno shakes his head, feeling his blood run cold. Their priest had been wrongfully accused, but the Holy Church wouldn't even issue a statement because they're too busy preparing for the festival to be bothered. Sandra raises her head to look up at him, eyes darkened with fear and concern. Hi, Seno.
Sandra.
It's fine. I'm fine. And Turner, It's fine. Could you go back by yourself? I just need a few moments alone. Sandra stares at her brother before shuffling out of the room. Aseno places a hand over the holy canon, trying to calm himself, but the fear still haunts him. The Holy Canon is a collection of tales, history, discipline, and anthems sacred to West Irie faith. The book is believed to comprise Ishmute and Etz, though many lost scripts are yet to be discovered.
In Veldrin here east.
Thus, Veldrin built the altar there and arranged the wood on it, and then placed the goat on top as a sacrifice.
Shangjorie fir kem grund.
But the calamities and distresses still don't. Past. Turner has already been crucified by the public. If the real killer isn't caught and the church doesn't stand up for him, he may very well be sentenced to death.
Kivasar of Voltru.
And Veldrin held his belief. He said, "In time the truth prevails. Deliver me, O Votru. Grant me wisdom and the eyes to see through truth." Aseno stands alone in the empty library. The sound of praying hovers among the tall shelves and countless ancient books.
Vodru.
Have mercy upon us, O Votru. This is the timeline. Each of the upper and the lower axis represents timelines happened in different cities or different places. You can choose different chapters to play in this page. The squares of the timeline represents the events of a certain date. Each kind of the outline colors of these squares represents respective characters. Once click the squares on the timeline, the summary of this chapter will be displayed on the upper right corner of the square. Click the character's avatar to begin the story. Okay. So what is this? That's Haiseno. We've already played through this. And I guess like red is new. So it would be Chevlet Fischer. A few years ago, the momentary sensation Chevlet Fischer was expelled from the Club Stella by its snobbish owner. Now, with the help from her new patron, Chevlet was able to return to the stage with new melodies and incredible voice. But she wants more than this. But I think we're gonna leave it off for here. I actually really enjoyed that. I don't know why in particular. There were some errors in grammar occasionally. But overall, it was quite good, and I don't know why I enjoyed it. If I have to be honest, I have no idea. But I can definitely see myself playing more of this in the future. Um, but I'll probably wait for it to be fully translated before I commit to any more than this. And yeah, so let me know if you like this. Maybe click on the like button. You don't have to. Leaving a comment is fine. And if you want to see more of this, just let me know. Yeah, I might do more of it either way. But for now, that was this Indie Sunday. Thanks for watching, and I'll hope to see you guys again next time. Bye.